Hello learners, welcome to BEDS 001, which is Overview and Perspectives of Values. We are in week 10 of this course. In this week, we will be discussing rules and principles of human conduct, theories of conduct, which will be divided into three sections. This particular week will be divided into three sections. First, we will be discussing rules and principles of human conduct, and we will be touching upon some aspects of theories of conduct. Then we will be also talking about theories of conduct in the second class and continuing with theories of conduct in the third class. So there will be 3 lectures in all to understand what is rules and principles of human conduct as well as what are the theories of conduct. What do you mean by conduct? Conduct has different meanings. When we talk about conduct in terms of moral aspect, it is a mode or standard of personal behavior, especially as based on moral principles. On the other hand, conduct is also the act, manner or process of carrying on. That is, for example, management is praised for the conduct of the campaign, election campaign, etc. So when we talk about conduct, conduct is a mode or standard of personal behavior, especially as based on moral principles. For example, you may have certain ways of behavior, the way you conduct yourself when you are in a place of worship, or when you are in an office, or when you are in in a place where there is a public meeting going on, and so on. So the way you conduct yourself, the way you behave will reflect what your standard of personal behavior is, and these may be based, and most of the time it is based on moral principles. Like when you are in a place of worship, you would bow down your head, or you will cover your head, or you will leave your shoes before entering the place of worship. This is how you conduct yourself. On the other hand, when you are in an office, or when you are in a public meeting, the way you conduct yourself would be like listening carefully to what the person who is speaking, or you are you pay attention, you do not make any noise, you do not disturb others, and so on and so forth. So these are the ways by which you can define what is conduct and what are the different meanings of conduct. While deciding in what way we should act in a given situation involving moral choice, we usually follow certain rules of conduct which are approved by the culture we live in. So when we are talking about rules of conduct, when we are talking about certain rules, behavior by which you live in the society and which are approved by the culture or the society we live in, there are certain examples, there are certain rules which we follow in the culture or in the society we live in. For example, never take a human life. This is one rule of conduct which you would abide by. Then never cause needless pain and sufferings to others. Don't engage in sexual activity outside marriage. Always turn the other cheek when you have been injured on one cheek. Don't steal. Always honor your parents. Never tell a lie, etc. So these are the various rules of conduct by which you tend to abide by or you follow, because these are the rules of conduct which the society expects you to live by, or the culture. It is the culture which expects you to abide and follow these rules of conduct. A reflection will show that none of the above mentioned rules is a complete guide to human conduct. These rules tell you what to do, but they do not tell why we should follow them. What we need to know is a moral principle or a set of moral principles from which such rules follow. So, when we talk about certain rules of conduct, you are told to do this, you are told not to do that, but these rules tell you only what to do, but they do not tell you why we should follow them, what are the principles behind why you should follow them. So, what we need to know is a moral principle or a set of moral principles from which such rules follow. We need to understand general principles of conduct which prescribe what one should do in all circumstances. So, what we need is a general principles, rules of conduct, general principles of conduct which can be prescribed for members of the society to be followed in all circumstances. Now, before we move on to this general principles of conduct which should be prescribed for the members of the society to follow in all circumstances, let us talk about let us briefly discuss what bad conduct or good conduct is. When we talk about bad conduct means acts or omissions constituting gross negligence, willful or purposely misconducting things, affairs, fraud, intentional misrepresentation, criminal conduct, bad faith or a knowing violation of law. So, it means you are doing something bad, you are behaving badly, you are behaving against the rules of conduct, you are behaving against what the society aspiration is, what the society expects of you. For example, you do certain criminal activities, you do not follow the rules of the law, rules of the land, then you intentionally conduct what is called criminal activities. So, this is bad conduct. On the other hand, what is good conduct? Good conduct would be good behavior. You behave well, you follow the rules and regulation. Because of your conduct you are appreciated, because of your conduct you are given reward, you are mentioned highly among your peer group or in the office, in your place of work, where you have been an example of good behavior or good conduct. Now, when we talk about the general principles of conduct or the general rules and principles of conduct which every members of society can follow or should follow, we will come to what is called universalizability. In its simplest form, universalizability means that in behaving with others, you should act in such a way that the rule of action becomes a universal law. Universal law, for example, would be honor your parents, respect the elders. So, there are certain universal laws, there are certain universal principle by which every members of the society, people living in different culture abide by, they follow. For example, there is this universal principle of conduct which is you should honor your parents, you should not steal, you should not behave badly towards others, you should respect the elders. So, these are certain universal laws. And when we come to the theories of conduct, universalizability in its simplest form, like I said, means that in behaving with others, you should act in such a way that the rule of action becomes a universal law. This principle is a form of a moral test that invites us to imagine a world in which any proposed action is also adopted by everyone else. Like I said, what would be the proposed action which is adopted by everyone else? These would be: do not steal. This would be do not do not behave badly towards others. Then follow the rules and regulations of the land, respect your elders, honor your parents. All these are proposed action which is adopted by everyone else who are living in any parts of the world. Most notability, this particular principle, that is universalizability, is the foundational principle for what is called deontological. What do you mean by deontological? I'll just give you an example. An example of deontology is that, or is the belief that killing someone is wrong even if it was in self-defense. The ethical doctrine which holds that the worth of an action is determined as by its conformity to some binding rule rather than by its consequences. So, this principle is a form of a moral test, and it is most notably, it is the foundational principle for what is called deontological or duty based or ethics. And I have given you what is deontological. I have given you an example to explain what is deontology, that is the belief that killing someone is wrong even if it was in self-defense. So, this would be like telling a lie would be wrong even if it means saving someone's life. So, this is what is meant by deontological. When we talk about this particular principle, which is principle of universalizability, we would be talking about what is categorical imperative. Categorical imperative. Categorical imperative is an idea that the philosopher Immanuel Kant had about ethics. What does he mean by categorical imperative? He gives an example. For example, if a person wants to stop being thirsty, it is imperative that they have a drink, that is, they go and drink water. So, for Kant, he says that an imperative is categorical when it is true at all times in all situations. So, in all situations this would be true, and it would be true in all times. If you are thirsty, it is imperative that you go and drink a glass of water, or you go and drink a glass of cold drinks or juice. So, when we talk about categorical imperative, Immanuel Kant said imperative is categorical because it is true at all times and in all situations. For example, if a student has to get good marks in the exam, so it is imperative that the student studies the syllabus which is coming for the exam in order to get good marks. So, this is true at all times and in all situations, that if a student wants to get good marks, he or she has to complete the syllabus and appear for the exams. If the student does not complete the syllabus, if the student does not study for the exam, then the student will flunk, would fail in the test because he has not studied or he has not completed the syllabus. So, it is imperative that a student who wants to get good marks, a student who wants to pass in his or her exam, that he or she should study for the particular exam and complete the syllabus. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher, and while working on moral principles, he set forth certain moral principles which one can unconditionally follow. These principles are called the categorical imperative. So, this is elaborating what a categorical imperative is, that is, the principles that one ought to follow. When we talk about categorical imperative, these are principles that one ought to always follow. So, when you act, you could wish that the maxim of your action to become a universal law of human conduct. So, according to Immanuel Kant, act that you could wish the maxim of your action to become a universal law of human conduct. So, when you talk about human conduct, when you talk about universal law, Immanuel Kant said your action should be such that it becomes a universal law of human conduct. For example, you decide to break a promise or an agreement because it is no longer convenient or relevant for you to keep it. The maxim of your action is break an agreement or a promise if it is no longer convenient or relevant. So, according to Immanuel Kant, he gives an example of how the maxim of your action can become a universal law of conduct. You decide to break a promise or an agreement and you no longer find it convenient or relevant to keep it. So, the maxim of your action is break an agreement or a promise if it is no longer convenient or relevant. Yet a more positive maxim which is more desirable to universalize may be you should help others when they are in trouble. Another possible maxim may be because I don't help others and leave them alone when they are in trouble, they need not help me and may leave me alone when I am in trouble. So, both these maxims are possible, but the categorical imperative does not tell us which rule we should follow. The requirement of impartiality, however, is compatible with both of this. We can hold that the principle of impartiality is undoubted a necessary condition, but it is not a sufficient condition. Let me repeat. When Immanuel Kant, who was a German philosopher, while working on moral principles, he set forth certain moral principles which one can unconditionally follow. These principles are called the categorical imperatives, where I gave you an example where if a person is thirsty, it is imperative that he or she should go and drink a glass of water, juice, cold drink and so on. So, this is the principle that everyone follows, and he also talks about the maxim of one's action to become a universal law of human conduct. So, if you want your action to become a universal law of conduct, then you should your action should be such that it can be followed and it can become universal law of conduct. For example, you should help others when they are in trouble. So, if this is a code of conduct which you abide by, this is also a universal, it is a universal law of conduct which is present in all society. You should help others when they are in trouble. And also another possible conduct would be, because I don't help others and leave them alone when they are in trouble, they need not help me and may leave me alone when I am in trouble. So, there are certain desirable law of conduct, rules of conduct, principles of conduct which has become universal, or because it has been followed over time and again, that it has become a universal law. And when you talk about the example of you should help others when they are in trouble, or you should leave others alone when they are in trouble because they have left you when they are in trouble, both these maxims are possible, but the categorical imperative does not tell us which rule we should follow. The requirement of impartiality, however, however, is compatible with both of this. We can hold that the principle of impartiality is undoubtedly a necessary condition, but it is not a sufficient condition. So, when we talk about categorical imperative, when we talk about theories of conduct, where we have talked about universalizability, we are talking about certain rules of conduct, certain rules of action which has become a universal law. So, in today's class, we have discussed what are the different meanings of conduct. We have talked about conduct which is a standard personal behavior. It is also a mode of behavior which is based on moral principles. We also have talked about conduct which is the way you behave in a particular meeting, or the way you conduct yourself in religious meetings, or the way you behave in a school, like how the students conduct themselves in the schools, or when they are when people are in a religious gathering, how they conduct themselves. These are the different meanings of conduct, and conduct has what is called bad conduct as well as good conduct. When we talk about bad conduct means bad behavior. You take up criminal activities, you do not follow the rules of the law, rules of the land, you break the rules of the law, and you also do not follow what is the rules of conduct which is there in the society, like you steal, you steal, you tell lies, you kill people. This would be what is called bad behavior or bad conduct. And when we talk about bad behavior, there is another end to it, which is called good conduct or good behavior. Good behavior would be following rules and regulation. Good conduct would be following or behaving in such a manner that you are following the moral principles or the standard principles which are there in the society and which are given in the which the culture to which you belong to expects you to follow. And also we have also talked about categorical imperative, which was an idea that is propounded by Immanuel Kant when he says that categorical imperative is categorical when it is true at all times and in all situations. And also to end today's class, he also talks about certain rules of conduct, certain action which has become universal law of human conduct. So, with this class, I have completed what is rules and principles of conduct, as well as I have touched upon what are theories of conduct. In the next two classes, in the next two lectures, I will be discussing about the other theories of conduct. Thank you so much.